to record this meeting? Just
all right.
reminder.
Apologies. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ami. Apologies to everyone else. We restarted the meeting. Israel, I think you'll have an opportunity just to restart the introduction because the event just started just now, and the recording has started as well. Over to you, Israel.
Thank you so much, Rhea. Like I earlier mentioned, I'm Israel Taiwo from the Federal Polytechnic Ado-Ekiti, Nigeria, and I'm excited that we have a couple of great speakers, I'll be right to say that, to speak to the context of innovations in fast-tracking land registration here this afternoon. Specifically, we have Associate Professor Simon Hull, we also have Amir, we have Daniel Stone, we have Emeritus Professor Stig Henemark, we have Marcus Cooper of Trimble, and then we have Rhea Mabaking, who is also going to be speaking to us in the topic of innovations in fast-tracking land registration. And essentially, as an introduction, I would like to just briefly introduce to us the FID Commission 7. The FID Commission 7 focuses on cadastre and land management, and we deal basically with various aspects of land administration. And within the FID Commission 7 is where the Fit for Purpose Land Administration Working Group is. And what that working group is focused on doing is we're dedicated to innovative, flexible, and cost-effective approaches to land administration. And also we're dedicated to promoting and facilitating the adoption of principles that fast-track land registrations. And also we are committed to developing publications, organizing workshops like this, and then fostering collaborations. So as part of setting the scene, I'd just like to quickly reflect on some problems of land administration. Or before I go there, we have a couple of partners, the Global Land Tool Network, Trimble, we have Cadastre, and then we have Esri, who are major partners of the working group. Now, as part of setting the scene, you would agree with me that optimizing land administration decisions is very, very vital. Now, land tenure security is highly dependent on effective land administration, and land administration processes must be optimized. These are things that require that, these things actually requires that the way and method by which we manage land, we administer lands are consistently improved. Now, land tenure security is highly dependent on effective land administration. So therefore, the process must continually be optimized to meet the intended objectives. Now, while achieving the tenure security, while this is the main goal in a developing context, it is also very, very essential in a developed context also to design land administration systems that fulfill broader range of functions, such as the 3D cadastre and the several other ones. Now, it's a statement from one of our previous meeting in the working group that SDGs are slowed down owing to land administration practices, owing to undocumented land rights, owing to the way by which some of us map land, and which necessitates or calls for the need for what we're doing this afternoon. So I'll also like to speak to the development of this workshop. Now you can go to the next slide, please. So this workshop is aimed at communicating innovations in technology, innovations in processes, and legal reforms related to fast-tracking land registration. Can you please go to the next slide, Roya? So with technology itself being an enabler, leveraging innovative tools, technologies, and approaches will have significant positive impact on land registration and hence administration. So I would not want to take so much of your time. I only want to add before my time runs away. All I would just like to add at this stage is that while this workshop is going, please you can feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. And if we're able to respond to all the questions, they'll be responded to during the 25 minutes discussion session. Otherwise, we're going to be answering all the questions and then emailing them to the participants as at when due. Now, without taking so much time anymore, I would like to introduce to us Associate Professor Simon Hall, who is a lecturer, a researcher, and a consultant with the University of Cape Town. He's going to be speaking to the topic Frontier Technologies for Securing Tenure for the next 20 minutes. Real, you have a hand raised. You can please go ahead and speak. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Israel, for the introductions. We just have a slight change in our lineup. Unfortunately, Professor Simon Hall will not be able to join us this afternoon. We were very excited about his presentation, but due to health reasons, he's not going to be available. So we are going to have a change in our lineup. We will have Professor Emeritus Stig Enemak start off by setting the scene in terms of introducing us to his presentation. Will that be fine, Israel?
That's perfect, Real. Thank you so much.
So you want, well, me to set out the presentation?
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Stig, for making time for the presentation. I know the notice was quite short. As many of you would know, Professor Stig Enemark, an emeritus professor and one of the eminent and initiators around research and discussions in fit-for-purpose land administration. He has been, at least from our university here at the Namibia University of Science and Technology, a great support and also one of the lead scientists that we have been looking towards hearing from. So he's going to present just in the next 20 minutes or less, depending on how much time you need on, yeah. I'll give it over to you just to share what your presentation will be about. Prof. Stick? You may share your screen now.
If I can. Mm-hmm. There it is.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, if you can put it in presentation mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, thanks for inviting me to give a little presentation here. And could I just start by congratulating Israel with his PhD. I'm very excited I had the opportunity to join his presentation, and it was excellent. Congratulations, Israel. Now,
Thank you, Prof.
I thought I would just intervene a little bit in the discussion, so I am mainly focused on the implementation side, which I think is where the problem actually stands. So, but let me start by if I can move the screen.
You can scroll the pages down on the right, Stig. There's up and down arrows on the right hand side of the app.
I can't see them.
In the middle, on where it says
1
to
okay.
12. Just
I
if you
see
scroll
now.
one down, it will.
That is okay. Thank you very much. Now, let's start by just this concept we developed back in 2014, and in hindsight, I'm actually quite happy we started this way, because this is actually the sexy part of it, this spatial framework, and actually being able to record at all the land parcels to align the rights connected to each land parcel, and the reason for this was the projects trying to deal with this issue of recording secure land rights, which is too costly. It took too long time, and a lack of capacity, and it just never worked. So could we develop a concept that was actually fit for the purpose of recording land rights in a timely manner, in a fairly cheap and with the capacity available? So we developed this kind of declaration, and it actually took off quite well. Then the GLTN, the Global Land Tool Network, asked us to develop also the legal and institutional framework that we only mentioned quite briefly in the first publication. So we now have the full range of frameworks that will enable us to go to scale. And then in 2021, we developed a range of articles and case studies in the Land Journal, as you would see to the bottom right. So you have all the three websites here, the three web links, and so this is the basic, if you like, material around fit for purpose going to scale. In this last publication from the Land Journal, we developed a whole range of case studies, as you can see, about 27 case studies from throughout the world, and some of them were, fairly regional or even local, and some of them were actually country-based. But you see that there's actually a great coverage throughout the world, and there are even more countries, of course. Ethiopia should be there, Rwanda should be there, but they were not in the publication. So the world map here is from that publication. So you can actually say fairly straightforward that this fit for purpose concept has become mainstream when we talk about providing secure land rights at scale. And we even have some countries developing real strategies for this country implementation. And I thought I would put these up here because they're also available on the web, as you can see in the bottom. Because this issue of developing a full strategy is a kind of a basic a base for actually getting a full approval from the political level. So we did that for Nepal and also for Uganda in 2018, and these projects are ongoing. So keep an eye on Nepal and Uganda, how they are developing. So it's each of these strategies is about 80 pages, so it's quite comprehensive, and maybe could inspire some of you about how to develop strategies for implementation. There's one more country I will mention here is Indonesia, which I think is the hottest country at the moment, because we're talking here about providing secure land rights for over 100 million land parcels in Indonesia. And it's ongoing and it's running out, and supported by the World Bank. And it's very strongly supported by the president in Indonesia, which is, of course, a a real strength, because if he have the power to actually decide this is what we're going to do, while in other countries, more democratic based countries like Uganda, Nepal, you have all these political issues to deal with as well. So keep an eye on Indonesia and see how it's going. I think it's up to, is it 60 or 80 million land parcels already recorded. And this is actually, as you know, a deed system in Indonesia, just like in the Netherlands. So it's quite interesting how the legal aspect is covered in Indonesia. Now, I would like to focus a little bit on these implementation issues because we're talking a lot of all the technical, the mapping and the registration, but there's a whole governmental setup to deal with this that have to be developed. And for this, I would refer to this phrase, as most of you will know, called "institutions are the rules of the game," as stated by Douglas North back in 91. So institutions are the humanly devised constraints, maybe informal constraints such as traditions and codes of conduct. That could be formal constraints such as laws and property rights. And this relates to political economy, which is the study of how economic and political systems are linked. It's about how nations organize the production and use of wealth. And the reason I put this forward is that we actually, introduced by developing this kind of secure land rights at scale, we are to some extent changing the power game in society, and some will gain and some will lose, and that's where the problem is in the political system. So even if we have great and very accurate and fast tools, we may not be able to use it because we have these political constraints to be overcome and to be understood. So the benefits of doing this, providing secure land rights at scale, has to be understood in the political system. We can learn from history. Some of you will know Machiavelli, Italian philosopher back in 1500, actually the father of modern political science. He said there's nothing more difficult to plan, not doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to manage than the creation of a new system. And that's actually what we're doing when providing these kind of land registration system, creation of a new system. And this is because for the initiator, he has the enmity of all who would profit from the preservation of the old system, and merely lukewarm defenders in those who would gain from the new one. So that's a nice phrase there we should keep in mind. So it's about engaging with institutions and political economy, because this kind of building such land governance systems with true coverage throughout the country, going to scale with secure land rights, require politically informed approaches rather than just technical solutions. So it's not enough if we have the good technical solutions. We need to get the politically informed approaches in place. We need strong political analysis and understanding of local context, such as through multi-stakeholder pilot projects. So starting this project by involving all stakeholders so that we create ownership on all relevant stakeholders in the field. Great flexibility and adaptability in program design for the implementation, and looking at these land registration projects merely as a supportive component to political drivers such as poverty reduction, housing resilience, property tax collection, climate mitigation, and so on. So rather than trying to sell secure land rights, should sell secure land rights as a driver for achieving something else, such as poverty reduction, housing resilience, and so on. So there's some key challenges ahead here going forward. It's about ensuring that a wide range of these fit-for-purpose land administration pilot projects are used for building full-scale system at country level. So there's a huge amount of pilot projects, but they just sit there, and we have to get to scale, at least at a regional level or a provincial level, and rather than just the local village level. So start by covering just a region in full scale, so that you can actually see how it's going to work in full scale within a region. It's about addressing vested interests by land professionals, national agencies. They often strongly against this because we are intervening in their field, and when I'm talking to the land professionals, the surveyors, I say, well, your future is actually, rather than being just the one measuring a land parcel and subdividing and this kind of thing, you will be custodians of a full-scale national system of secure land tenure rights. And so it's completely new and much more glorious role for the surveying profession than the one you would see in most developing countries today. And finally, about building political will, to including NGOs and CSOs and also other stakeholders in creating the support at national, regional, and local level. Include all the key players in the process. So the way forward, I have this nice way in Uganda here. The way forward, I often say, I stated this many times, but I think it can't be said too often. Don't start what you can't sustain. So provisions and resources for updating and possibly upgrading systems might be established up front. I mean, if the systems are established and they just sit there and are not updated, it will be useless within a couple of years, and it's all a waste. So make sure it can be sustained. And also promote education, research, capacity development, and knowledge exchange for the understanding the role of responsible land governance in support of the sustainable development goals. You all know that, but it's very important to keep this in mind. And if Simon Hall was here, I mean, this also relates to this issue of the responsible land administration guidelines. It's about closing the cadastral gap by providing secure land rights at scale to the fit-for-purpose land administration approach. And by doing that, I'm always arguing, keep it simple. Be aware that technology development is always far ahead of the legal and institutional applications. So keep it simple, and we will get there eventually. So here's just my credentials, if you like, on my websites, and you will find all my publications on these websites. So I just put that in. The photo in the bottom left is actually myself for my graduation in '66, and I'm still aiming to provide secure land rights for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Stig. Thank you very much. I think it's a great reminder for all not to start what we cannot sustain. I think that's one of the top messages that I took from starting a fit-for-purpose land administration process in any country. So thank you very much for your presentation. For everyone joining, please do make sure if you're having any questions, you can use the chat. There's also the question and answer option that is available. So the next presenter we were supposed to have a presentation by Professor Simon Hall from the University of Cape Town, but unfortunately, he is not available today. So the next presenter, and we're quite excited about this presentation too, that fits on very well with the presentation by Prof. Anemark on the technology that is currently being designed by Esri around land registration. So the next speaker is going to be Amir. Amir. Amir is from Esri. Maybe just do a quick introduction for those who don't know you, and then you can share your screen. Amir, over to you.
Thank you, Rael. My name is Amir. I work for Esri as a product engineer, a geodesist and a land surveyor by background. And I'm fortunate to learn from, we'll show soon the presentation, but it's a good segue to what we want to show you today, some of the innovation that we've been working on. And with me, I have Dan Stone. He's the product manager for the Parcel Fabric. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Dan Stone. I'm the product manager for the Parcel Fabric. I have about 35 years of land administration here in the U.S. At the county level. I'm not a surveyor, but I've been reading deeds and plats for a long time. Back to you, Amir.
Thank you, Dan. And Dan and me will be co-presenting. There's some areas that we have a lot of agenda to cover, so I'm going to just work through the slides. And then I think you started to work on a thing called ArcInfo a few years ago.
I started in 1989 with ArcInfo, and we were mapping parcels back then. There were so many things that we wanted to do back then that we could not do that a lot of the software does today.
Right. And then came ArcMap that solved some of those issues. But as more and more standards and more requirements came from customers, we found out that ArcMap could not do everything, right? We had industry and customers asking for STDM and LADM, and then came the fit for purpose approach in 2014 as Stig showed and initiated. And on the other hand, we have all the technology getting advanced. People want to have the parcels in their hand, in their mobile device. We have new technology to collect data. We have now AI and machine learning. We have cloud and software as a service. So all these pressures helped us form the next generation, the generation we are currently working on, which is the Parcel Fabric we have today. That works not only on your desktop application, but works in the web browser, in your mobile device, as well as the desktop. So we'll try to show you how we kind of moved away. What do we see here, Dan?
So the old way we used to do it is I would have my computer and I would connect to a server and I would actually log into the database and I would connect directly to the database. The new way we do it is we still store the information in the database, but we publish it as a feature service, meaning that it's now available and consumable through services from a URL or Universal Resource Locator. And we can bring that information into our desktop and still use those tools, except we're using it against the service.
No more having someone working against files and where did those files go and so on. It's all centrally managed. So with that, we invented the new Parcel Fabric, which is very much like the land administration domain model, if you know that. It's a controller dataset, and it controls feature classes, polygons, lines, and points. And one of the neat things is that it has this feature called records, and those are the equivalent of a spatial source or any type of source in the land administration domain model. Any feature you have, whether it's a point, boundary line, a spatial unit, a parcel, are associated to where they came from. And we can defend those features if we have to and understand their quality and so on. We also have quality management built in that we won't touch so much today, but allows us to evaluate our data at any time for topological issues, attributes, and even spatial accuracy. So it's a simple model that controls feature classes. I'm going to do a quick demo. So we're going to have a few live demos today. So I'm going to stop with the presentation quickly and go to ArcGIS Pro. And I'm going to start, like Stig said, small to make sure the proof of concept works here and that we can scale it up if we want to. And I'm going to show you a few of the concepts that we have. So it's record driven. I'm going to first, because we're in a presentation, I'm going to make it a bit bigger so everybody could see that. And we have this notion of an active record. So here we are on the parcel record workflows. So we have all the parcel tools. And I'm going to create an active record. This is the spatial source. And I'm going to give it a unique name. It could be a fit for purpose team that goes to collect the first registration information. It could be a legal document that has some year information and so on, some unique identifier. I can set the type of transaction I'm going to put, and this is all configurable, nothing to do with development. So it could be a land consolidation or first registration. Let's do a quick merge to show a standard workflow. If there's a date when it was recorded, the legal date, maybe it was recorded last week in the land registration office, I can put that in and I'm going to create it. Now it is the active record. Everything I do now is connected to this legal transaction. Just to show the point, I'm going to select two parcels here and use the merge tool to merge them into a new parcel. So I'll press the merge and we can give the new parcel. I'm not going to use a template here. And I'm going to give the new parcel a new name. And I'm going to press merge. So now you can see we have a new parcel with a new name. The legal areas have been combined together like we do always in Cadastre. We also, the legal transaction, that record we created, we actually have a footprint of that. So if we deselect here, you'll see that we establish a footprint. And if you wonder where those old parcels went, they are still in the system. So at any point of time, I can still see the history of the data and see that those two parcels still exist in the database. What I like to do sometimes is visualize that in a different way, which is called parcel lineage. So I can create and visualize the parcel lineage by creating what we call a link chart. And that will show what we just did as a visual graphic. And this is useful to understand the chain of title or where things came from. So it's loading it now. Let me put it on the side here. So here we have the link chart, and you can see here that we had a transaction called an old legal document that created those two parcels that we merged by this legal transaction that created this new parcel that we have here. And of course, everything is linked. So if I were to select any of the parcels and so on, everything is linked together. So this explains a bit about the concept of a record-driven workflow, is what historic parcels are, and how we can depict it using the parcel lineage. Anything I missed, Jen? Yep.
Yeah, if I wanted to record the documents, could I link that to the record?
Yes, so that record that we see here that we created can be linked to any legal documents that we have. If we have a lot of them, that we can link it to the document management system, for example, or to the land registration system, or we can just put a URL to any location that we want, even a folder location on the network, if we wanted to. And if we look at the record properties that we created before, we will see that this is the record we created. It also keeps track how many parcels it created and how many parcels it retired. So we can also use that as a quality assurance as we do more and more transaction. And because we have the footprint of the legal transaction, I can publish this on the web. I can click somewhere and I can know exactly which legal transaction happened in that location. If I were to click on a parcel here and look at the attributes of that parcel, I could also see that I can expand the navigation here and see the relationship it has to its spatial source. I can know it came from this legal transaction, and I can find all the details about that document. Some other things that people have been asking for is keep the topological integrity intact. So if I select a point, let's say we are more into moving points around, whether it's with GNSS or other means, if I were to move a point, I would want everything to move together. We have here lines, we have polygons. And if I were to move the point to a new location, you can see how everything moves together. I can undo the transaction and redo. Everything moves together, and that's part of how the parcel fabric works. So this is just a quick concept of what we call record-driven workflows in ArcGIS. And we also have tools to manage quality that are equally important in what we call a system of record. Here we see one of the tools which will help us highlight any gap or an overlap in any scale very quickly using a GPU, a graphic processing power. And yellow in this case is an overlap, and you can see it's an overlap. And the green on the other side that got created is a gap. And this helps us identify those. And of course, if parcels start to move because we do any process of least square adjustment or update coordinates, it's important that they have good topological integrity. Otherwise, we'll see phenomena of tearing apart. So this is one of the quality tools we have. We have a whole tab of tools that help us identify issues and tools that help us also fix issues, just as important. Well, migration. How difficult is it to migrate data? Let's do another quick demo. I'll close this map that we see here, and we'll see something that everybody knows. This one is called a shapefile. So I'll add the shapefile to a new map, and we'll see a sample data. In this case, I think there's a few hundred parcels, but this can be 100 million, like Stig said, in Indonesia, if we need to. So here we have a sample data of spatial unit or parcels, however we want to call them. And I can create a new database locally to start with. Let's call it for now just as we have this at this workshop. And the first thing I'll do, and maybe Dan, I'll just do the work and you explain what we're doing.
Exactly. So I'm creating a data set, which the data set is going to hold the features of the parcel fabric. The data set controls the projection information and the topology of those features inside of that data set. You can think of it as a folder, but it's really not a folder. It's a little bit more than just a folder for your spatial data. Inside of that spatial data set, you are going to create the parcel fabric, which you just did. And when you create that parcel fabric, it creates those basic features that we that make up the parcel fabric. So we have the records feature class. We have the relationships between the records feature class and what we call our parcel types. Those parcel types can be named anything. In this case, we're calling it the spatial units. So that will store the spatial units of the area that we'll be mapping. I can also expand the attributes. No longer do I need to actually type in all those attributes. If I have them coming from another source, I can simply copy and then paste them into my target features. So now all that information has been copied over. I have the field names that are the same. I have the value types that are the same, the data types for those features. We did try to make this as easy as possible to create and load the data into the parcel fabric.
Thank you, Dan. I try to outpace you and doing it faster than you can explain.
You did pretty good.
Yes. But because we were editing the same file database, I had to discard the edits first. So we extended the fields, and now it means that if I append my data, it will find the source and the target will find those parcels will go into my spatial unit feature class. So let's just append them in.
And that's how easy it is. It's just an append command to load the parcels into the parcel fabric. There's no special tools or anything required. It's the same append command that you would use for anything else. And one of the nice things about when we append the data, we do have the option to do field mapping. So if we wanted to change the field to something differently than what's coming in from the source, we have the option to say, field A needs to go into field A1 in my target fabric.
Now the data is appended. I can remove the shapefile from this map. No longer needed, and instead add my parcel fabric to the map. And it knows we're adding parcels here, so it will add the right symbology for those parcels. The points, the lines that have not been created yet, but the polygons are there.
And what's nice is you just added the parcel fabric to the map, and it knows all the other spatial units, all the other features that make up the fabric, and adds those in.
I think I'm going to stop here for a shortage of time. We've done most of the steps required to move this data to the parcel fabric. For now, it will take another minute to finish this process, but it's just as easy as that to migrate to the parcel fabric. And we started from a shapefile. We extended the information model, and except creating the points and the missing lines, we've done everything we needed to. So I'll stop in this step here. We saw it was easy. One of the nice things that came in 2012 was the LADM conceptual information model. And when we designed the new parcel fabric, we took that into consideration. We debated whether we want to call it spatial units or parcels, whether we want to call it spatial source or records. But we called it in a way that would be more understandable by our customers. But they can be easily mapped one to each other. Of course, we focus mostly on the spatial package and not on the party and the 3 Rs. The reason being, those are usually managed in a land registration system. Although if you wanted to, you of course can extend the geodatabase to include those entities and relationships as well. Here's an example of how a parcel fabric can be created with the ontology that is used by LADM. And you can expand the relationships as you see fit to meet your needs. Some of the relationships come out of the box, like I showed before, between the spatial units and the spatial source, which is the records feature class. Another requirement that we've seen, and we're going to show you a lot of different things here, is creation of a title map, a map that shows the coordinates around a parcel. And we saw this is needed, so we just went ahead and created it, and I worked with somebody from Ghana. So here we have sample data from Accra, and we can see here already created one layout of these owners in this scale. And we can see here the points around the parcel and the coordinates that they have. I will now choose a bigger parcel to the south here, which will probably have to land a different scale. It wouldn't fit in 1 to 500. And I'm going to just run the generate title map tool. And I'm going to put it here on the side so you can see what's going on. You can see that it has an input of the legal scales that are allowed in Ghana and which other settings to use. You can even export it as a PDF, and you can simply run it, and it will export that parcel, zoom to it, decide based on the legal scales that are available, it will round to the nearest logical scale, and it will also update the layout to include the other points. And I'm using the next version of the software, so if there's any mishaps, which is taking a bit longer than I would expect it to work, that would explain why, because it should be done in about 5 seconds, and it's still running. Okay, it's always in the demos because it worked before. Here it is. So it found a legal scale. That's a 1/2000. But it's struggling with the rest, looks like. Or something is.
Looks like the layout's just slow to refresh.
Yeah,
there
so it does work,
yep.
But not as fast as it will be in the final version of the software. So you can see it update the number of points, the name of the owners have also been updated, and from here it can be printed and stamped, and then we have a new legal document. So if you're interested, we also have it, the recipe to how to create it on our website, on the community. Might be interested. And of course, you can design the layout as you see fit. Another thing that sometimes people complain is about how difficult it is to learn new software. So one of the things we did is, let's look at the data that we just migrated. Here we have it here. And let's say I want to repeat the same workflow we had before on this migrated data. I can also insert what we call a task. And a task is a configurable set of steps for a workflow. So I'm going to use the Parcel Fabric tasks here for record-driven workflows and add it to the map. So here we have it. And now that we have that, you can see it reporting that it doesn't find some information. So the first time I'm going to use it, I'm just going to map it to the right map. So it's looking for this map. Here it's called map 1. So I'm going to map it to the appropriate map. It's looking for this layer. It's called here something else. It's called spatial unit. And this, instead of parcel lines, it's the spatial unit lines. So now it knows everything, and I can validate this again. And this task is ready to go. So let's see what is a task. I have a set of instructions for every step. I can even minimize the things that we have here. So I can just make them smaller if I wanted to. Let's minimize them. And the first thing it asks me is create a new record. So the new record today could be something that combines the date and some unique number. I can set the record type and so on as I see fit. In this case, we haven't configured it yet, so it's empty. And once I'm ready, I can create the record, and now it becomes the new active record as you see here. It gives me a set of instructions: locate your work area. You can configure locators if you have them for parcels, for address, and so on. In this case, let's just skip that because we are on our area of interest, and move to the next step, which tells me select the parcels. So I already have the select tool ready. It already launches the select tool for me. And if I try to select only one parcel and press next step, it tells me you have to select 2 or more. So it has some validation logic, and that again, all configurable, nothing with code. So it just keeps working from one version of the software to the other, and I don't have to call any developer to do me any favor and recompile this information. I can give the new parcel a name and press finish. And I'm done with this workflow. So this is an example how tasks can help you work with repeatable workflows. So a quick one, and you can design your own tasks for to do anything from creating a map to collecting data and so forth.
What I really like that you showed there, Amir, was that you didn't have to go find the tools. It was just presented to you in that workflow.
Right, the right tool in the right time, and
right.
Yeah, makes me more efficient, not only for new users, right?
Right.
Yeah. So one of another big enhancement and innovation is a thing called versioning, and it took another step in the past few years. Versioning allows basically multiple editors to edit in the same time the same data without locking each other, but each editor can only see the data in their version. They don't see the edits in somebody else's version. And I can also use it for training. So if I use a version, I can do the edits. I don't like it, I can delete the version. I might not have permissions to push the version I'm working to the default version. That is something that maybe I'll need Dan to QA my work to do a quality assurance, and if he approve, they can do that type of process. At any point of time, I can reconcile, which means pull all the other edits that have gone into the systems since I created my version. And when I'm done, I can post, which means I push my edits into the default version so everybody else can see it. Now, this gets interesting when you use web services, because once I push my edits and they get approved into the default version, everybody can see it, also people using a web browser. So here we have some sample data from the Dutch cadastre in the Netherlands, not far from where I live. And here we can see a web map. You can see it in the browser in Chrome. And I'm going to zoom to some area here, not far from where I live. And now we are going to do exactly the same workflow we saw before, but we're going to do it in a version called my editing version, and we're going to merge those two parcels together. So we are doing exactly the same workflow we saw before, and all the edits are being saved to my version. So it's called my editing version. I can go to my versioning tab. I can reconcile, which will basically pull all the edits that have been done since I created this version by me or even by others. And then I can post it to the default version. And as soon as I post it to the default version, if I now switch back to my web map and I refresh it by moving, you'll see that we can see the transaction has happened. So this shows the power of web services. You can imagine using email on your phone, an email in your desktop, and in the web browser. As soon as you get an email, you see the email in all the three devices. The same can happens with the power of web services and versioning.
But many of our users, Amir, use a dashboard to show all those changes that have occurred.
Yep. When you have a lot of users doing a lot of work, you want to find and know who's working where and find bottlenecks. I'll go quick demos. Stig, this is for you. This is a place called Copenhagen. And these are all the parcels in Denmark. And here's a text file of a new resurveyed parcel on one of the Danish islands. And the first thing I'm going to do is just import them in the right spatial reference. So Stig can translate this for us later. And I'm going to specify the right spatial reference and the accuracy in which they were collected. And this will create a new point feature class and zoom to that location. So that is been done. So it's done a few steps for us now. We can change the symbology of those points on this map just so we can see it better. So I'll just choose a symbol that we can see where those points are. And this is a bit exaggerated, of course, but the points are not where the old points are. And how do I move one point at a time? No, instead we have an import parcel fabric points. So I can specify the source points that came from the GNSS receiver, the target. I can specify how I want the matching to be done and the tolerance. And in this case, we'll put it in an edit session so we can do undo and redo. And just like that, we update the parcel corners to the new location. Now, this can be applied to one parcel like you see here, but this can be applied for a whole neighborhood or a block. And this just shows that if you collect data with a fit-for-purpose approach, you can always keep updating and improving the spatial accuracy as you get more accurate data coming into your system. So that was just showing also the scalability, because this was the entire all the parcels in Denmark. Another quick demo is how you can also bring data from other sources. In this case, it's a DWG file from Autodesk. You can just bring it in, copy the lines into the parcel fabric with an active record you can see here. And then we create what we call a parcel seed. You can think about it as a small polygon with all the attributes of a parcel. And it also fits nicely with fit for purpose, because this can be a centroid on top of a dwelling, for example, that will one day have boundaries around it. And once in this case, we created some measurements for each line, but then we can build, which will create the polygons for each seed. Once we did that, the last step is to align the parcels. Again, another tool to align the parcels to the surrounding parcels, and that was how you do that. We're also working around 3D for customers that have this requirement. In this case, it's a 2.5D for condominium units. We see here sample data from Phoenix, Arizona. And this is how you can easily duplicate floors that have the same floor plan upwards for the different units and repeat them. And you can see it displayed in 3D on the other side. Of course, once you have the 3D buildings. You can also use that for valuation analysis, which is another thing that customers do. Some things we work on the road ahead is this new feature, which we call Kogo Reader. In this case, we are bringing legal documents that are textual but contain measurements, and we extract the measurements from those. We call those Kogo measurements, and you can see that we automatically identified those direction, distances, curves, and in this case, it's a traverse that closes, and we can review the misclose, and once it's sufficient, we can add it to the map, not only the parcel, but also the lines from the commencement point to the point of beginning. So this is some advances that we are working on right now and will be released in the next month. Other things we're working on, Dan, do you want to talk about this slide?
Sure. We're working on, hopefully towards the end of this year, we'll be able to take a parcel fabric. Today, we're publishing it to the ArcGIS Enterprise. In the future, we plan to have this where we have these capabilities where we can publish it to ArcGIS Online. So meaning I can create my parcel fabric just like you showed in a file geodatabase. And instead of editing the file geodatabase, I can actually copy that up to ArcGIS Online or publish it to ArcGIS Online, where it will now be a feature service out there. ArcGIS Online doesn't support everything Enterprise does, so there will be no branch versioning like Amir showed. When we work with Enterprise, we do have a REST endpoint that we could call the fabric directly. We won't have that for the online version. There's no topology, but we do have tools that will find gaps and overlaps, and we can also pull that information offline, work with it locally, and then sync it back to up online. So I think this is going to be a really good alternative, especially for folks that have multiple editors that need to be able to support one database, but multiple people editing that database. And here's an example of how you could actually get that up there. You can take a geodatabase that's zipped up and just copy it up to ArcGIS Online by adding it as a new item type. See, I'm not familiar with this one, Amir. There we go.
Yes. So in this case, we just I'm just showing how easy it is. You take a file geodatabase that we just created, you zip it, then you go to step 2 to ArcGIS Online, you say, I want to create a new item, and you just drag and drop that zipped file geodatabase into that new item. You tell it what it is. You can specify the name, the metadata. In this case, it's Ghana. And because I already had one, it's erased, so I have to give it a unique name. It can have 2 items with the same name. And then you say publish, and you wait, depending on the size of the data, whether it's a minute or a few minutes, and it stands up all the services for you. So you can see here on the top left, it's creating the services. And once that is done, it's the same as you can go to ArcGIS Pro and just add that to your map and start edit it in ArcGIS Pro. So here we are logged in. It's the cure, right? It's scalable. I'm logged in as a named user, so I have permission to see and edit this data. And now I'm going to add this new parcel fabric to a new map coming from the web. Now, for that, of course, I need internet, which is something that we know can be sometimes a challenge. So the next thing we'll show you is how you can take it even offline. So now I'm editing this. Yes, over time, right?
Yes. 3 minutes to round up, please.
Okay, so I'm not going to show you how you can edit this data offline, but that is meant exactly for cases where you don't have good internet. You can take data offline, and when you have internet again, you can just sync the changes. Where do we have those implementations? This is a partial list outside of the US, and any link here we'll share those slides that you are going to press. You are going to basically get a nice case study or a story map with one of those, with the story of that implementation. You can see there's Bureau of Land Management, entire the US, continental US, and Alaska included there. So there's big customers that have millions of parcels, as well as small cities that have maybe 50,000 or 100,000 parcels. where you can find more information. One, we have the meetup with more than 2,500 people. You're welcome to join that for free, or you can see the recordings afterwards as part of the community. So we like to share the knowledge, which is, again, one of the fit for purpose administration goals, is to share knowledge. So that's what we do, and we do it online. So we want it to be reachable for everyone.
And one of our goals with ArcGIS Online, the parcel fabric there, was a place to be able to sustain your work, right? So Stig had said, don't start what you can't sustain. Here would be a good place where we could actually start maintaining and sustaining our work.
Yeah, and you don't need to have the resources to stand a DBA and a database and enterprise and servers. That's the beauty of software as a service. You just do it online. So this is the summary. We designed the parcel fabric for the next 15, 20 years. We hope it's not going to last like ArcInfo 40 years with some customers, but it's designed for that. We wanted to meet both the fit for purpose approach as well ability to grow to modern cadastral requirements. We are now implementing this in places like Sweden and other countries, so we can have a very wide variety of business requirements. It could be simple or it could be complicated as you want it to be. It needs to work anywhere on any type of client, any cadastral system, easy to adopt and fast to deploy. We saw that a bit. Efficient, scalable, configurable, and secure. It's very important with tenure to ability to have good security. And we are continuing to push the boundaries by also working towards mobile workflows, more complicated 3D cadastre requirements, web editing, which is coming and is exciting, and the things that AI and machine learning can provide us. And that was us. Thank you very much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Amir and Daniel, for the insightful presentation on the parcel fabric. We have, yes, there are some questions that are coming up in the chat. So if you have any questions for Daniel and Amir from Esri, please do post them in the chat, and then we will attend to it when we start with the discussion. So interestingly, things are working out despite some of the challenges we had. So we're going to have a presentation by Israel Taiwo. It will be based on the frontier for technologies, and it links perfectly to some of the presentations and discussions that were in the presentation from Daniel and Amir. Israel, over to you.
So much, Royal. I don't know if you can see my screen.
We can see your screen, yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to you from wherever you're joining from. And I want to sincerely appreciate Amir and Daniel for the presentations that you have just made. Thank you so much. And also Professor Steve for the presentation you have also just made. So I'm going to be making this presentation, but it's going to be on behalf of Professor Simon, who put together this particular slides. So I'm just going to be a voice to communicate what has been put together. So we're looking at frontiers of for the technology, and of course we have here blockchain for land registration. This is one of the newest of them. Blockchain provides tamper-proof, decentralized ledger for land records, reducing the risk of fraud and disputes. Countries like Ghana, Georgia, and Sweden have piloted blockchain-based land registries to improve security and trust. Of course, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, AI can analyze vast data sets such as satellite images and land records to detect inconsistencies, fraud, and illegal land transactions. And machine learning algorithms can also help to automate land classification and tenure mapping, aiding governments in better land management. Also, drones for land mapping. Drones provide high-resolution imagery that can be used for rapid and accurate land surveying, especially in rural or informal settlements. And they are cost-effective compared to traditional surveying methods and help in formalizing land rights in unregistered areas. Also, we have remote sensing and GIS for land tenure security. Of course, drones will be seen as a subset of remote sensing and GIS. But then satellite imagery and GIS help to monitor land use changes, encroachment, and deforestation, ensuring better land governance. Governments and organizations use GIS-based cadastral systems for efficient land record management and dispute resolution. Now, the mobile technology for land documentation also, looking at mobile apps. This allows landowners to digitally document their land rights, even in areas where formal land records are lacking. So some initiatives use SMS-based systems to notify landowners of land transactions and policy changes, increasing awareness and participation. Also, Internet of Things for land monitoring. So IoT sensors can be used for real-time monitoring and land conditions. For example, it will help to gather soil quality, land encroachment, or illegal activities over land. This technology is particularly useful for agricultural land management and environmental protection. Also, we have digital twins for land management. Virtual modeling of land records. The creation of digital twins, virtual replicas of physical land parcels, allows for detailed analysis and simulation of land use scenarios. So this approach aids in understanding the impact of various interventions over time, enhancing decision-making processes in land administration, and also cloud computing. I mean, the list can be endless because in the nearest future, no one knows what technology will be the vogue then. But the truth remains that there are several technologies now pushing the frontiers. Now let's speak on the automated land parcel extraction, which is something very, very important in the way in which land is mapped, or the way cadastral mapping is done in this case. For image acquisition, hyperspectral and multispectral imaging are actually one aspect of these things. Now they capture detailed spectral signatures of land features beyond the visible spectrum, useful for distinguishing different land cover types, vegetation, water bodies, soil types, and detecting subsurface features. Also, it's important to say that archived records from images can also be used even in resolving land disputes. Now, hyperspectral images, hundreds of spectral bands with deeper land classification can also be used. For multispectral, we have fewer bands, and the near infrared, the red, the green, and then the blue bands. Now, for drone-based imaging, we have high-resolution images with flexible deployment, ideal for localized land parcel mapping and areas difficult to access by satellites. Now let's go to number 2, AI-based image processing and feature extraction, machine learning and deep learning algorithms. I mean, some years back, I was able to digitize or extract from images boundaries of features, buildings, roads, and even fences from properties, things that delineate boundaries from images. These are the things that can happen with image processing. So we have what is now called the object-based image analysis, the edge detection algorithms, automated detection and classification of land parcels. And then lastly, we have what I call the automated cadastral mapping and integration, that is vectorization of parcel boundaries. This converts extracted parcel shapes into GIS-ready cadastral layers, which can be cross-checked against existing land records. I'll go to the next slide now. So automated land parcel extraction, the benefits includes the fact that they are faster, they are more accurate, and it's been tested and proved that they are more accurate, and then they are less, they require less human intervention, they require less human effort. So it makes fast-tracking land registration easier, and then it also makes it less based on human judgments. It also improves land governance, cost-effective, and then it supports sustainable land use planning. There are certain challenges. This includes data quality and accessibility, complex land tenure, algorithm and model limitations, integration with existing land administration systems, and then ethical and privacy concerns. I must confess that all these things are actually still based on accuracy levels. I mean, the feature extraction algorithms, but there are researches now that prove that accuracies that can be obtained have now gone beyond even what humans can actually produce. I'll then go to the next slide, better together. That's a topic that Professor Simon would like to call this particular slide. Now, AI plus remote sensing plus drones, the combination of all of them can actually produce useful information for detecting land use. That is beyond the primary reason for land administration, which is tenure security. but extending to the larger framework of the wider land and land management functions. Drones can also provide high resolution up-to-date data also, and then AI process imagery to extract land parcel boundaries. Blockchain plus GIS plus mobile technology also allows for community-based land parcel mapping. Records are stored and viewed in GIS, and then blockchain provides security for transactions. Also, if you go to the third category, Internet of Things plus AI plus cloud computing. Now, Internet of Things sensors monitor land conditions, they analyze sensor and satellite data, and then cloud platforms store and share land data. So the combination of this technology actually produces a synergy and results that far outweigh what one of them can produce. And I'll go to the next slide. Now, while frontier technologies are revolutionizing land administration, there are fundamental challenges we cannot fully solve, and there are some key limitations. One of it includes political and institutional barriers. Tech can fix weak governance. Corrupt officials can still manipulate land records, even if stored on digital platforms. Political interest often overrides fair land distribution, especially in resource-rich regions. Legal and regulatory gaps can prevent new technologies from being recognized in court. For example, blockchain ensures tamper-proof land records, but if authorities refuse to recognize them, then it's useless. Deep-rooted land conflicts, that is, tech can't resolve historical injustices. Many land disputes stem from colonial era, that is, land grabs, forced evictions, and then ethnic conflicts. Overlapping claims, for example, that is, customary versus state-recognized lands, are hard to resolve with just maps and databases. Even AI-driven land allocation models can't decide who deserves land, and this requires political and social negotiation. For example, in Kenya, digital land records reduced fraud, but couldn't resolve disputes over ancestral lands. Social and cultural resistance also. Tech cannot force people to trust new systems. So in regions where land tenure is based on oral traditions, community agreement, or tribal authority, not digital records, it becomes difficult to use technology to improve such land management systems. Lack of digital literacy makes blockchain-based or mobile land systems inaccessible to marginalized groups. Fear of governance or of government control can also make communities resist digital land mapping. For example, in Ghana, blockchain-based land records exist, but many still rely on chiefs for land disputes instead of the digital proof. 4. The physical and environmental challenges. Now, tech can't always overcome nature. That is, climate change is displacing communities, making static land records obsolete. Natural disasters, floods, earthquakes can wipe out land boundaries requiring constant remapping. For example, in Nigeria, where boundaries are sometimes determined based on the course of natural paths like streams, for example, the water courses are now changing owing to climatic conditions, owing to the changing climate of our environment. And that makes it difficult to keep relying on those natural systems. Remote and inaccessible terrains, that is thick forests, mountains, make drone and satellite mapping challenging. For example, in the Amazon of Brazil, satellite imagery detects deforestation, but illegal loggers still operate in unmapped areas. And then the forest cover also makes it difficult to map land using airborne means. Economic inequality and digital divide, that's the fifth. Now, tech cannot also make land affordable. Land grabbing by corporations still happens, even with transparent records. Cost of high technology solutions means wealthier groups adopt them first, widening the gap. Smallholder farmers and informal settlers often lack the resources to participate in digital land registration. Example is in India, digital land records were introduced, but landless farmers remain excluded from ownerships. So let's make it happen. That's a call to action from Professor Simon. Let's make it happen. What do we need to do? We need to strengthen legal frameworks, that is, digital land records. We need to recognize digital land records in law. Governments must legally recognize blockchain-based or AI-extracted land records. They must ensure digital land tenure documents are admissible in courts, and then harmonize land tenure systems. That is, the customary, the informal, and the statutory land rights should be integrated into official land policies. Another example is given in Ghana, where efforts are underway to match traditional chief land records with digital registries. Also, we need to clarify land ownership and rights, ensure clear legal definitions for land ownership, leasehold, and land use rights, provide legal pathways to resolve disputes arising from digital land mapping, and then ensure secondly, ensuring equitable access. In ensuring equitable access to technology, there is need for investment in digital infrastructure, that is expanding internet access and mobile networks in rural areas. For example, you might want to imagine why the connectivity issues affected us today. It's because there are so many places where the internet is still not as active, and I was happy when Amir and Daniel presented, and then they still gave examples of technologies that can be leveraged even without the internet. So it's important also to provide low-cost mobile land registration platforms for marginalized communities, and then to also subsidize and simplify land registration. It's also important to offer free or low-cost registration services for smallholder farmers and informal settlers. Example exists in Rwanda, where low-cost drone-based land titling program made land registration affordable for rural communities. It's also very vital to promote digital literacy.
If you can round up, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'll just go to the key takeaways. For the key takeaways, now, frontier technologies provide some solutions. That is, they help to transform land administration, but not perfectly. Also, they can't solve deep-rooted land issues. It's important for us to understand that frontier technologies may not be able to solve the deep land issues, but then they can assist. And just like one of us said during the workshop in Ghana, held by the Fit for Purpose Land Administration Working Group, it was said that technology can only be an enabler, and it's not just all about the technology, but then what works best in different contexts needs to be adapted or adopted such that it can then be leveraged to help us map land faster and then have more people having security for their tenure. This is where I would like to end the presentation here. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mike.
All right. Thank you so much, Israel, for the overview on frontier technologies and that are supporting fit-for-purpose land administration. Thank you so much. So what we're going to have next is we're going to bring all the speakers back. If we can have Prof. Enemark, Amir, Marcus Cooper, and Daniel as well, just, back on stage so that we can have a quick discussion and answer some of the questions that we find from the participants. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so there we have Israel. Waiting for Amir. Are you still there? Prof.
Yes.
Sik and okay, perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Very interesting presentation. We had a very good introduction by Prof. Enemark around institutions and also the reasons why we should look forward to implementing fit-for-purpose land administration. There was a reminder on some cautioning as well, that when you are implementing new innovations, you should be able to sustain these innovations. So we have some questions. Some are in the chat. The ones that are in the chat will be answered directly, but we also have some that came through other platforms. So one of the first questions that we have, do we have Marcus here? Marcus?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, perfect. We didn't have a presentation from you, but you can also join in the discussion. So one of the questions that did come up is, can you share some of your experiences of some countries that have successfully reformed their legal frameworks in order to integrate customary tenure systems with formal land registration processes under the fit-for-purpose land administration approach? This one is open to everyone. It can come from Professor Stieg and also from Amir and Daniel and also from Marcus Cooper from Trimble.
Can I say just a word on that?
Okay.
The very good example here is actually Uganda, because they actually made it available that you can have this kind of customary rights, if you like, recorded, and it's ongoing, so it works well. It's just a matter of putting it into more conceptual frames, so that you look at a whole area and you do it, rather than just having the opportunity open, right? So, but the legal opportunity in Uganda is open, so that's a good way to start. Yeah.
Okay, so Uganda is one of the countries that we can look at in terms of those examples.
Yeah.
Another one that also goes, I think this one goes straight to Prof. Stick as well. And it's always one of those questions of the chicken and an egg, which comes first. So do you start with your policy improvements first, or do you start with the introduction of technology when you are implementing a fit-for-purpose land administration process? Which comes first?
Well, I mean, if you aim at providing secure land rights at scale, say at a provincial level or a national level even, you need to engage the relevant stakeholders before you talk about the technology, because the technology is there. It's actually quite easy, and most politicians are surprised to see how easy it actually is. And this is thanks to drones, of course, and all that, and also thanks to Esri Trimble, who make these brilliant concepts that actually make it quite easy to deal with. So you have the toolbox, right? But can you use it? So, and you can only use it if you're allowed to use it, and that's where the problem is. And then to address that, you have to overcome these constraints I talked about, both in the professional community and the land agencies, and politicians are actually the easiest, because they can see here's an option that we can actually give something back to people in our country, but there would be constraints from the way the system exists as it is, and to overcome that, that's what I was talking about, is the key constraint. But it's good for all of us to know that it can be done, because we have all the technologies, we have all the concepts, and we know from all the pilot projects it can be done, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So,
I will just want to add that trying to force new technology as a initiator for change management is a bad idea. Like Stig said, first engage the stakeholders, get the buy-in, and then choose the appropriate technology, because there's also a wide variety of tools you can use to match the technology to the purpose that you're working on.
Sure.
And one recent example that was maybe unknown but close to home to Europe is Portugal, which is also a new organization they created called eBupi, that is only aimed to collect land tenure data in a fit-for-purpose methodology, and over the web browser, using web browser. And that's not very known, but I think they already collected about 1 million parcels in the past few years.
Yeah, I know about that one.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. Thank you, Amir. Thank you, Prof. Stick. Can we have Marcus? Some examples?
Yeah, I think to add on my friend's statement. So I think political will is really important to change things, to make things. From the tool set, we heard all the arguments, and I'm absolutely on these arguments. I agree. So technology is there. I think there's no one fit all. We heard that already. I think from the tool set, you can mix it to your fit for purpose area. And that could be different from rural to urban to para areas where it's both. And I think also important to have a vision to develop further. So if you start very low, probably this is not the final aim what you're aiming for. So try to set up a concept. For sure, a long-term concept needs to be adjusted from time to time. New technology or new approaches or legal requirements are evolving. So make a vision, make a concept which is sustainable, adjust that over the time, and mix from technology what is needed and what could be evolved over the time.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Marcus. This is the second follow-up question, and I would start with Esri on this for Amir and Daniel. How can community participation be integrated in, using the parcel fabric? I know it was more technologically advanced, at least from when we speak about what type of work communities are doing, especially around informal settlements. Maybe if you can share a bit of insight in terms of how do we integrate community processes in the digital solutions that Esri is developing.
Yes, so right now we have organizations like Cadasta that uses ArcGIS Online to collect data by many NGOs and so on using fit for purpose. And many times we see the data gets collected, but then it needs to be maintained somewhere. It goes stale if it doesn't get maintained and improved and split and merge, things that happen normally with land. So this is where we wanted to bridge that gap. Let data be collected fit for purpose in the field, on the web browser, whatever means necessary, but then be able to start to maintain it once it's approved. And this is where we see the parcel fabric is a good match for it. Obviously, most of our implementation so far have been with customers that have more resources in the developed countries. But we hope that with the ArcGIS Online and the SaaS offering, we will be able to also provide solutions that are low entry bar for people that don't have the resources to stand an enterprise system.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you. I think that's encouraging. I see a window opening for Namibia as well, where we can advertise and promote the parcel fabric to some local authorities as well. All right. So there's an additional question here in the chat. I think if you have seen it, it's on the sustainability of these applications. Process and infrastructure is key. Can we still have them operational in the next 20 to 30 years? So I think it's a general question, but I think Esri can also, Daniel or Amir can also go for this. Sustainability of these new applications and also processes and infrastructure. Will they be operational? What is the future outlook?
I give it a shot, just a short one before the good technicians come on board. I think if you look a little back and you see how fast technology is evolving, right? So it's overtaking almost anything. So the issue is not about the technology. The issue is to adapt the technology to the real world, if you like, to deal with the real problems, right? And make the right use of all these brilliant technology solutions. So technology is there, and it's going to develop far further out. I mean, AI solutions we will see, and all kind of stuff. And then you come back to can we do it at all? Because do we have the political will to actually make it happen, right?
I like how Prof. Stig is emphasizing political will. It doesn't matter what type of technology we develop or what solutions we come up with. We can write all the research that we want, but if we don't have the political will from our national government, most of the fit for purpose projects would not be scaled up. So that's a good one. All right. Prof. Stig, while you're still on there, one of the major challenges that lots of countries are facing is capacity. Capacity to implement new projects, also capacity in terms of creating awareness around new solutions. What are some of the best practices on building capacity and skills to support and maintain advancements in land administration? Just some examples or countries that we can look at that have improved the capacity of land administration institutions.
It's a
I'm not
question
sure
to
Professor Stig
to
has,
Stig, right?
Should I
The
answer
question
that
is open. Yeah, it can be from Stig and Amir. You can also answer. Daniel as well. You have over 30 years of experience
one?
within this field. So any examples around or advice that you would have for the audience around how capacity can be scaled up in local land administration institutions?
Just a brief
So,
comment on this one. It's
Okay.
I developed a project once in Malawi, was back in around 2000, and we wanted actually to do this, implementing the new land policy in Malawi that would include customary tenure and the customary authorities in the system, and but the problem was that to identify what we're talking about here, they had 22 surveyors in Malawi, right? And they saw this is our job, right? So so how do we overcome this? This is the capacity development issue. So rather than trying to scale up, if you like, university programs and all that, we developed a completely new program, which was only a 1-year program, which was a mix of all the key competencies you need on the very basic level, so that we could educate people to support the local authorities, the local the customer authorities, to take that role, right? So you had to think out of the box, and once we made that happen, we actually also we were also able to develop a full master program in Makerere University. Yeah. So it's possible, but capacity development is key. Of course, you can't do. The point is just with fit for purpose, you don't need that many professionals, right? A lot of it can actually be done locally. It's just a registration, and especially with that brilliant technology we have available, where you have seen presented today. So it's that simple. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. Stig. Marcus, or is it Israel who had his hand up? Okay, there's a comment here from Dr. Didier. He says, just on tools for advances in land administration, the use of applications such as the one by Esri, the parcel fabric, will depend on the need of each country context and also the capacity to afford the solutions and the licenses. And I remember earlier on, Ami did mention that hopefully in the future, countries will be able to afford some of these solutions by Esri.
So Dan and me, we don't work in the sales team, but there are programs that lower the bar, called the LAMP, Land Administration Modernization Program, for developing countries. So that reduces the cost of licensing. And then for the capacity building, I think nowadays, after COVID especially, that we are so used to come on web meetings like this one and share knowledge. This is something that we've been doing even before COVID, just meeting on a regular basis with a community from all over the world, using the internet as a medium to teach and learn. So not only do we share knowledge, but also our customers, our business partners, implementers, consultants share their challenges and how they overcame that. And that we find very useful for everybody.
Thank you, Ami.
There's one more issue, Royal, about this capacity. If you really look at going to scale at a national level, you need to staff all the land offices, right? And where do these people come from? And a lot of that staff doesn't have to be that highly educated. They just need some basic training. And this program I talked about in Malawi, we call them land clerks. right? And it worked brilliantly. And they became very popular. There was 4,000 applicants every year for that program. 1 year training, and it worked. So there are many ways of doing it, but without capacity, if you want to implement it at scale on a country level, who's going to sit there in the land offices? You need to train these people, some people, enough to do the basics.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. One other suggestion that was a contribution from Dr. Didier is that we also need to start understanding the inclusion of open source solutions such as QGIS when we are developing or implementing solutions for different countries. So Esri is providing great solutions, but we also have open source applications that can do similar, like can implement similar solutions. I am saying similar. I'm saying similar. Marcus, over to you.
Yeah, I think overall open source is great. So but I would say it's an option, because open source means the source is for free, but the application or the model you need to develop. For that you need developer. Companies like Trimble or Esri, we have the development capacity. So if you check your tool set and you have the option, for example, open source or I would say paid software, you need to check if you have the capacity to develop, maintain the software further. And we have seen fit for purpose examples which heading in the direction of open source and failed. I know there are also options, they have not failed, but I would say check the tool set, check the options, check the capacity you have in your country, and check what is the best option for your fit for purpose initiative or process.
Exactly. Don't start something that you cannot maintain. For example, we get Trimble applications. We have money that we are getting from one donor, and then in 5 years, the donor is no longer there, and we cannot maintain it ourselves. So it's a very good contribution there, Marcus. Israel?
Thank you so much, Marcus and Roya and everyone. I must say that the contributions you've given are perfect, excellent, concerning the use of open source and also proprietary softwares. But I want to give a small story, a very short one. In 2007, while I was in school, I did a student project, and then I couldn't finish a simple GIS task with one software because to afford it was actually a challenge. For my university at that time, not unlike now that we have available free licenses for universities to use and people can now train easily. So when I graduated, I was about to just forget about everything GIS that I ever learned, but for the availability of open source software. So what I'm saying is that there is actually a synergy between the open source and the proprietary. Today we're organizing this workshop, and then we have the people from Esri, we have Trimble, we have, of course, we would have had people who also contributed to the development of STBM as a software online, but for some other logistics. So what I'm saying is that all of these things actually fit into each other. It's a possibility to start from open source, to move to the proprietary, and then to also keep developing with open source. And just like Marcos rightly said, it depends on the capacity. The capacity significantly impact these things. And then if you are able to continue the development and then keep making it work, it's perfect. Otherwise, it's then maybe good to then go to the development partners who can then progress and also lead the development in the future. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Israel. Amin?
Yes, I just wanted, I'm not going to talk about QGIS, obviously, but I just want to say that we have agencies like the country of Cyprus that uses the parcel fabric, and they were trapped for 40 years using a system that was customized using developers that developed it about 40 years ago. And because it was so heavily customized, they didn't have the resources to keep it up to date. It was created obviously before even the internet was around. So it was very limited at what it can do. It was very unsecure and so on. So regardless of if they chose to go with open source or with off-the-shelf software, they basically said no more customization, no more developers. We don't want to be dependent on them. We want to keep up with the technological investment that will come in the future that we cannot anticipate, and just keep upgrading the software as it comes and not be trapped in an old version that doesn't meet future requirements. So I'll leave it at that, and also say that we Esri use a lot of open source ourselves. Even the Parcel Fabric uses the DynAdjust least square adjustment from Geoscience Australia. So it's not like we are against open source. We use PostgreSQL as a database and so on. It's part of what we do.
All right, perfect. Prof. Stig?
A very short comment. This whole capacity issues, there's always two sides, right? It's about capacity assessment and then capacity development, right? So to understand what capacity is actually needed, what do we have, what is needed, and then how do we develop it? And we have some quite good publications on that actually in FRG publications. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Before we start looking at tackling capacity development, we should understand what capacity we don't have and what capacity we already have in-house. Israel, you have your hand up?
No, please go ahead, Roya.
Yes. So yes, no, that was all I needed to add on to complement Prof. Stig and Mark's comment around capacity assessments within different organizations. It's 6:15 here in Windhoek. We have about, I think, how much time do we have? Sorry, Israel.
Yeah, we have 13 more minutes before the 24th.
All right, we have about 10 minutes. So I'm taking the 3 minutes away. So I'm going to give an opportunity to our presenters is just to give us a few last words regarding the implementation of fit for purpose land administration and the topic at large. And then I will go into a quick summary as well in terms of what was covered and also the way forward for the working group. So I'm going to start off with we're going to have Esri come in first, and then we'll have Marcus Cooper, and then we're going to have Prof. Enemark to give his last words after the presenters before I give the summary.
Dan, would you like to go first?
Sure. I just want to say, I'm going to echo what everybody else has been saying, that, you know, GIS really is made up of three things: people, technology, and data. Right. The most important part of that is the people, right? Which is what everybody's been saying, that understanding the capacity and building that capacity, the people, the technology is going to come and go and change. I've been doing this for 30 years and I've been using different software all the way through to do this. But the data that I started maintaining 30 years ago is still being maintained by the organization that I started with, right? So the data has stayed, the people have come and gone, some of them are still there, and the technology has changed. But the most important part of this is the people. And as far as the way it used to be, as far as the geomatics versus the GIS groups, that has really become that line is no longer a big division. The two groups have come together where the surveying community actually does rely a lot on the information that's coming out of the GIS to do the research, to understand, you know, what has happened at these areas before they even go out into the field. So it's come full circle where everything is working together. That's all I had to say.
People, technology, and data. Perfect.
Thank you.
Amir?
So, well, first, thank you for having me. That's the first most important thing. I just want to say what excites me today. Excites me today is the ability that we can connect the mobile devices with the web, with the desktop, on the cloud, or on-premise, and start to think of workflows. They tie all those things together instead of having separate communities, the surveying doing their piece and then another person doing their piece and so on. It can introduce a lot of disruption and also efficiencies. And the second thing that we have to think about is how things will change with AI capabilities and machine learning. We are now working on AI capabilities. We call them skills, and those skills can be tied to workflows. So when we think about capacity and what people need to know, we'll also need to think, can their job be replaced by an AI bot, for example, in the future or not? So this can also, early days now, but it can also introduce another level of disruption in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Amir. I think you echoed some of the excitement that many people have. You don't have to have an Esri consultant fly all over to Windhoek to solve a solution. It is all online. It is mobile. Perfect. Marcus?
Yeah, I think we, Trimble, we are in the geospatial data collection business for 30, 40 years now. And if we look to technology today, and we see that evolving very, very fast, our customers, the surveyor in general, the GIS specialist in general, we collecting and storing and managing more data than ever. And it's faster than ever. It's easier than ever. But there are still jobs for the experts to validate the data, to check the data, to maintain the data, to check what is real and what not, and how good is the data. So, and I heard many, many good things in this meeting today, and I'm very thankful to be in this round of experts here. One thing I want to add, which matches, I think Amir mentioned that. So cadastral data, land data, is not a picture. It's a movie. It's evolving over the time, it's changing over the time. We, as the specialists, we need to maintain the data, we need to recollect the data, and we always, surveying was always a business which applies the best modern technology for that particular purpose. So that was always a kind of case in survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. I like that. We're going to use that actually, that cadastral data is not a picture. It's actually a movie production. You have so many different actors that you need to bring together to have that final data output. Perfect. Prof. Enemak?
I could start by saying now, it's great to see this kind of events here, really seeing the industry and the profession coming together and working together in developing the solutions and taking things forward. And I mean, I've been in this business for quite some decades now, and this was not the case in former times. So I'm very happy with that. So it's Esri and Trimble, very, very nice. And I would say that also that this working group chaired by Israel, I think is very, very, very timely because we are here on a threshold of a new era, if you like. Now we know that we can actually deal with and possibly solve this issue, and to deal with the opportunities in a forum like this kind of working group, I think is excellent. I'll point at one thing in the last, that we should maybe also consider to have a little bit more focus on the urban areas. Yeah, because the rural areas is easy in terms of to identify the parcels and what's actually on the ground. While in urban areas and especially in informal settlements, this is another issue, and there are some other players there as well, because the people living there don't get any rights in the end, because who gets the right is actually the one that owns the structures, right? And so there's a huge another kind of problems related to the urban areas, which which we have a new challenge there, I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Enemark. Thank you. Unfortunately, Israel is yes. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left to round up. So just a big thank you to Amir and Daniel from Esri for making it. Your demo was quite insightful. I'm also quite excited. We will see how we can start introducing it to some of our students who are learning about innovations in land administration. Marcus, great reminder as well in terms of the importance of building capacity and not just running towards the integration of open source solutions if we don't have in-house capacity to follow and build up on develop on the systems that we want to implement. Prof. Enemark, we value and appreciate your wisdom and advice across the years. We will be continuing some consultations around how to address or implement some of the solutions across the country. Especially here, I will now only speak for the Namibian context. So what we have seen so far in this workshop, which was well organized by Israel, we are very grateful for you making time, being around the clock to get the working group together. We appreciate you. And we will see how we can go in the future for more of the workshops. So just a short overview in terms of what we covered. Prof. Enemark provided us with a great overview and introduction around institutions for land administration, for fit for purpose land administration. And one of the takeaways that we have is that when you are creating new institutions and processes, it is important to remember that it is a challenging endeavor. So the frustrations that come with it should not create any sort of discouragement from moving forward. So political will is quite central in scaling up or implementing fit for purpose land administration. We can have the technology, we can have the solutions, but if we don't have political will, it will be quite near to impossible to implement the solutions for the benefit of our communities. Capacity development came out essential as well. Before we start going around and seeing how we can build and improve capacity, we need to have a clear capacity needs assessment on a country level. It can also be on an institutional level, just to understand what capacity is there to implement these fit for purpose solutions. And the solutions that have been presented here by Esri, the parcel fabric, reminds us of the importance of the people, the technology, and the data as well. People are going from Daniel, and technology is changing, but the data remains. So we should also try to see how do we center ourselves around ensuring that we also make people important to our processes. Yes, so basically that's the summary in terms of what I captured. The recording will be available for everyone. We will share the slides with all the participants as well. We do have your emails. Just a general announcement for the working group. This is the first series of workshop. We have 3 planned workshops. The next workshop is going to be on the 31st of July. And it's going to focus on overcoming resistance to fit for purpose land administration in land governance. We will have different experts that will come and present. And we hope that it will be as interactive as this one and even better. So that's it from me. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again on the 31st of July.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.